Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, all the learners of our first semester MHI. My name is Dr. Nakhat Shaheen, and I am the program coordinator of MHI. So today, our resource person will take the sixth block of ancient and medieval societies, that is feudalism. And now I am requesting our resource person to kindly take over the class. So please start the class. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. So today's topic for deliberation is MHI-01 Block 6, and in this we have to discuss a very interesting aspect of European society that dominated Europe for about 500 centuries. So this is called feudalism. You must have heard the name feudalism. Feudalism is a socio political arrangement which was necessary at a time when Europe was groping in the dark. After the death of Charlemagne, the French Roman Emperor, Central Europe plunged into anarchy, and there was no central authority to take care of the people. Anarchy prevailed. There were plunders, there were robbery, invasions, raids from barbaric tribes, particularly the German tribes, and there was no safety to the life and property of the people. With the collapse of central government, there was nobody to take the responsibility of protecting the life and property of common man. So, under these circumstances, a new system of socio-political organization cropped up, which came to be known as feudalism. It originated as a necessity. It was necessary at that time to protect the life and property of the people. And however, by the end of 19th century, most of the professional historians came to give up the view of barbarian invasion. Barbarian invasion is one of the huge, no doubt even the greatest of the authority of feudalism, that is authority historian of feudalism do not deny that barbarism constituted one of the causes. So F. D. Planck developed a theory that is Roman origin of feudalism. So let us see different theories the advanced by various experts, I mean historiographers or historians have a have a bird's eye view regarding the origin of feudalism in Europe. The Pirin thesis, the theory was propounded by Belgian historian Henry Pirin. It is divided into two distinct parts: the period of continuation of the classical tradition in the Merovingian period. Merovingian is one of the tribes, name of the tribe. The other demonstrating the fundamental change of society in the Carolingian age. That is also name of the tribe, or you can say the dynasty. So, according to Pirin, the barbaric invasion of the Germanic tribes did lead to disruption of the Mediterranean Sea. Mediterranean Sea, where the trade volume was sizable, and particularly the states of Europe, that is the Rome, Greece, etc., they were conducting trade. That trade declined because of a certain cause. The cause of the break with the tradition of antiquity was the rapid advance of Arab Muslims under the Umayyad Caliphate. When Islam spread, they started conquering nearby countries, and and the Muslims themselves were divided into two groups. One was Umayyad, other was Abbasids. And it was during the reign of Umayyad that the, the Mediterranean Sea trade route was conquered by them and it came under the Umayyad Caliphate. So this was the founding moment of feudalism in Europe. Having been thus bottled up, the Europe was forced to live upon its own resources. Since trade was almost disrupted by the control of Mediterranean Sea by the Arabian uh, Muslims, now Europe depended on its own product. Trade declined, urbanization stopped or did not increase the at a pace it was expected, and there was the return of the society to a purely agricultural civilization. When urbanization declined, trade and commerce declined, money inflow of money also declined. Naturally, people will rely or bank upon the agricultural pursuit, and society became purely agricultural uh, or agricultural civilization thrived. Pope's authority was confined to the West Europe. Pope, the religious head of the uh, Christians, uh, his authority was confined to the Western Europe. The conquest of Spain and Africa left the king of France, master of the Christian Occident. Now the Franks they conquered Spain and Africa. Pirin writes, without Islam, the Frankish Empire would probably never have existed, and Charlemagne without Muhammad would be inconceivable. That means he writes that it was due to Islam. The Frankish king could conquer Egypt and Spain, and had there been no prophet, there would not have been a Charlemagne. This was the contention of Pirin. Pirin. Then feudalism as ties of dependence. French historian Roch gives another view, what he called the ties between man and man. Feudalism as a social condition where the relations of personal protection and subordination immensely expanded. During the feudal period, the personal relationship increased. Personal relationship means there was an hierarchical echelon, there was a step-by-step echelon, and every person was related to the next higher master. That, in that way, the relationship between man and man increased during or under feudalism as ties of dependence. Every person had to depend on another person. Men the lord, men the vassal, men the serf, and men the free man. So everywhere people had to depend on others. And that is why this period, feudalism, is regarded as ties of dependence. The feudal revolution thesis. We have another revolution thesis, that is feudal revolution thesis, and its profounder is Georges Duby. His research work was published in 1953, what he called feudal revolution. So what did he find? He argued that fight never played more than a peripheral part in what is generally known as fight means a piece of land which was being given to a vassal. So according to Dubby, the role of a fight in the development of feudalism in Europe was negligible. With the collapse of the royal authority in the late 10th and 11th century, the Castellans forced the lesser landlords into vassalage and imposed on all peasants a new kind of leadership. Seigneury or landlord, you can say, based on taxation rather than tenure. So the question of this high fee does not arise here according to the contention of this George W. This involved a realignment of the social functions. Social function but a realignment became necessary. The difference between the freemen and serf came to the blood as all the villagers were subjected to identical and heavier levies. That means under the new system, the difference between the freeman and the serf. Serf is not a freeman. A serf is bound to the state. So difference between the freeman and the serf was blood. Means there was almost no difference at all because all were subjected to identical and heavier levies. The clergy strongly defended the exemption from landlord exactions. The bearing of arms also became a crucial marker of social distinction in this period, with the horsemen or the knights forming a lower stratum of the aristocracy. That means all sections jealously guarded their own privileges and status in the society. The difference between the serfs and the freemen came down. Then the knights are bearing of arms. They also occupied a prestigious position in society, and the clergy they also claimed exemption from the seigneurial or the landlord exaction, and the knights who used to bear arms, they also became a crucial marker of social distinction in this period, with the horsemen or the knights forming a lower stratum of aristocracy. The, the horsemen or the knights, they formed the lower stratum of aristocracy. They were also they were also aristocracy, but at the lower level. the plow and the stirrup thesis. Another thesis advanced by historians to give a convincing justification to the development of feudalism was the plow and the stirrup thesis. Lynn White Jr. made an important intervention in the growing debate in 1962 by strongly emphasizing the role of technology in shaping the feudal society. So according to this, role of use of the technology in agriculture brought about to a serious change, and this gave to the system of feudalism. He argued that remarkable technological improvement in agriculture sustained and even improved the condition of the peasants. Remarkable technological improvement. Whenever there is improvement in technology, cultivation or different works became easier, and this was maintained, or this was spoken by Lynn White Jr. that technology played an important role in bringing about the feudal system. And then use of iron. By this time, iron was used to uh, make different implements required for cultivation. So when iron was used to, things became easier, and heavy plows were employed in, in place of small plows. Heavy plows means a number of plows attached together to be drawn by a number of poles. This is known as the heavy plow. So when heavy plow was used, it speaks volume for the fact that advanced technology, or at least an improvement over the prior over the previous implements, was no doubt totally established during this period. Heavy plows were used, and number of bulls were used to draw the plow, and gradually the horses were used, and the horses also gradually replaced the ox. Horses gradually replaced the ox, and feudalism as the mode of production. Feudalism mode of production means feudalism was a social and political organization. At the same time, it also sustained the society because production could be possible because of feudalism. Feudalism means the king distributed, the empire was distributed into number of states, and each state was given to a vassal, and on the condition that the vassal would provide military service as and when required, and also the vassal was kept under obligation to accept the lord as the accept the king as his overlord, and also remain loyal and render several services, including the military service. So this was the uh, feudalism as mode of production, and the vassal did not personally cultivated the land. He also employed serfs to do this work, and thus this became a system of production, agricultural production for the people living in those society, and, and trade and decline. Unity, feudalism, terms and structures. Feudalism was or feudalism functioned conditionally. There were a number of conditions. The whole kingdom was divided into a number of states. Each state was given to a person known as lord or vassal, and the vassal would agree to provide the military service, to provide the soldiers to the overlord at the time of requirement. He also provided certain other benefits to the overlord, and he was required to work uh, free in the field of the king, free of cost, and in lieu of and he had to give his presents and tributes to the overlord. He has to pay money to the overlord at the time of the marriage of the king's son or the king's daughter. So a number of work was to be done in the service of the king, and that was expected from a vassal. Vassal means who accepted another person as his overlord. Then vassals also, they did not like to do the work himself. So what did they do? They gave parts of their uh, estate to the person who agreed to supply those services which were required by the those services to his immediate lord, which services was required by the king himself. So in this situation, a number of intermediaries were created, and this is known as a sub-infeudation. And finally, entire burden of the economic pressure fell on the soldier of the uh, peasants, and the subsidy the the feudal system was in a pyramidal position. Pyramidal position, at the top remained the king, and then the lower officers, and at the base remained the serfs, who were really the who were actual tiller of the soil, lords, vassal, and homage. So when a vassal accepted the overlordship of the king, or a person accepted the overlordship of his lord, immediate lord, it was done in a formal way, and that formal way is known as investiture. Homage means to pay obeisance, to pay respect to the Lord, and that is called the homage. Homage means one has to pay, one has to remain loyal, one has to respect the king or a lord. That is called the homage. We pay homage to gods and goddesses, even to our elders, teachers, and parents. So that is called the homage. It involves a series of obligations on both the parties. Homage means it involves a series of obligations on both the parties. The person who commend himself was called a vassal and obliged to pay services. ଟିକେ ଆଗରୁ କହିଥିଲି, whoever agreed to become a vassal, he was required to pay services to the king. The lord who was required to provide maintenance and protection to the vassal. The king also requires this system because he was to provide maintenance and protection to the vassal. Then homage. Homage is also a ceremony. Homage ceremony, what sort of ceremony? Now the vassal would kneel down before the mm, lord, and the lord would lift him and lift him, and the vassal would swear or take a vow to be his man. That means as long as he remained alive, he was not to resort to treachery against the king. That is the uh, principle of that is homage. So the king also gave him a symbol of a tweet, a wig as a symbol of the state. This is the ceremony of homage, according to which a vassal was initiated into the vassalship in the broad section of feudalism. Then we have a five. Five is the smallest unity of land which was given to the cultivators, and then mano. So economic activities in feudalism is known as manorial system. Economic activities, there were economic activities also. So if we see the layout of a town, medieval town, we will know that the castle means the mason that was situated in the middle of the crown's land, in the middle of the estate, and around him, on four sides of him, there were the houses of small houses of the serfs and other officers, and beyond that there were shops and markets, etc. Then we have a public school, supermarket. That means all sorts of amenities were given to the people under feudalism. That is the manorial system, or the economic aspect of feudalism is known as the manorial system. And it's a very interesting fact that the the economic aspect, how the economy um, used to play a very crucial role in the social stability of feudal society. And then we have knights. Knights are persons, very strong people, brave people, persons, and they participated in tournaments to show off skill. The very purpose of the knights was not to win by hook or by crook. Their only intention how well they received it, the training, and what skill they possessed individually. That was the chief aim of the chief aim of the knights. That means they used to get pleasure by showing their own military prowess, and they were called knights. Then they conducted tournaments. Tournaments means a show of a skill where they used to flaunt their skill, not to not to defeat somebody, but to flaunt their skill. That is a tournament. A tournament means to flaunt their skill, and chivalry. Chivalry means it's an action befitting to a brave man. For example, the knights or the Samanta, they never attacked from the backside. They never did backbite. ପଛରୁ ଛୁରା କେବେ ସେ ଘୁଷିବେନି. Whatever they do it front to front. They never run away from the battlefield, leaving others to die. This is the chivalrous quality of a knight, and that is why he is a knight. It is his duty to see that nobody is in danger. Whenever he found that someone is in danger, the knight would reach there and rescue the person out and, and got him out of the danger. That is called the knights. Separate um, provisions were there. The knight has to possess certain qualifications. That the knight must be proficient in warfare. He must be expert in uh, in in sword fighting. He must be a good rider, and after all, he must be brave and intelligent. That is why one has to one has to face one exam, and if passed, then only a person was eligible to be recruited in army. So this is the this is regarding the knights who were very useful, who used to protect the poor and the widow. They never disrespected women, or they never molested the grown-up girls. That from that point of view, they were this time they were spick and span, and they were having unblemished personality. They were so devoted to their work. They enjoyed their work so jealously that nothing bad, no bad thought could penetrate into their mind. So that is why they are called the knights or the or the brave people, those who were called knights. Then tournaments and chivalry. Chivalry means a virojita kam, a work becoming to a person. That is called becoming. Unbecoming, some work which does not fit into the personality of a person is known as unbecoming. So that is a um, tournament and chivalry. Chivalry means virajita kam. A knight was not bothered about to win the tournament. He never resorted to treachery. He never resorted to backbiting. The only thing is that he has to fight with his rival to know or fight with the rival heart and soul, and if he came out victorious, then only it is said that the particular uh, knight won. So this is the chivalrous quality. Chivalrous quality means they won't kill the civilian, they won't kill the women, they won't kill the elderly people, only the able-bodied people who could be used in warfare, only those people were targeted by the Roman soldiers. So this is the knights, tournaments, and chivalry. Then we have phases. One phase runs from 9th century to 11th century, and prior to that also agriculture during this period agricultural produce increased uh, from 11th to 14th century. The growth of population um, due to growth of population. Next, that means another period. But there are two periods. The first period is the expansion of agriculture, and the second period of that is that also is marked by the extension of agriculture, but in a different way. In the second phase, 11th to 14th century, growth of population, extension of cultivation, growth of economy, and social stratification. All these factors have a bearing on all these factors have a bearing on the production system of the period. And the feudal revolution theory. Another theory is known as second phase, 11th to 14th century. And during this period, uh, agriculture also extended and agriculture also extended and and after that it gradually declined. So let us see. So what are the uh, duties of a bhasha and duties of a lord? The vassal was required to give a few days work, has to work freely in the field of the lord, say 40 days a year. And when the eldest son or eldest daughter of the overlord married, the vassal was required to pay gifts to the lord. And when the Lord visited the states of um, the vassal, then all his expenditure and his retinue was to be borne by the vassal. And the vassal had, the Lord had the right to find out to or to arranged for the marriage of the sons and daughters of the vassal. And in return, the vassal was to do certain things for whom, about that we have discussed a little, uh, that the Lord would protect the life and property of the person, and in case of any difficulty, then the Lord would come to the rescue of the subordinate officers. So, in this way, the feudal society worked, and an state almost became a self-sufficient economy, though considerable improvement was did not take place because of certain restrictions, because of certain constraints. Yet, feudalism provided a ready and rough government to restore peace and stability, which was the need of the hour. Otherwise, um, Europe would have been an anarchical state, and many um, and state and many people would have suffered immensely. And now we'll go to the trade and commerce. Why? What are the causes that led to the decline of feudalism? Feudalism, huh, one another aspect of feudalism is that the castle of the lord was situated in the middle of the state. That castle was made very strong at the time of invasions, at the time of invasion of enemy, at the time of flood or other calamities, people used to take shelter in that castle. So, castle also played a very important role in sustaining the the feudal system, because the house was so strong that it could withstand the attack, it could withstand the vagaries of weather and like this. So castle was the center at which every aspect of my real life or life in the state was taking place. Now we go to the decline of feudalism. Feudalism, however crude it may be, it provided a rough and ready government to the people, and people felt secure, at least under the lords or under the immediate immediate lords, and they had no fear for the loss of or fear um, from the nomadic barbaric Germanic tribes. That means the feudal system was a necessity, and when this necessity was fulfilled, then feudal system declined. After 14th century, that means after 3 to 4 centuries, the feudal system or feudalism outlived its necessity. Outlived means it continued beyond its expiry. when nobody was willing or when its utility was meager, it still continued in medieval Europe. And various factors led to the decline of feudalism. One of them was trade, trade and commerce. Trade and commerce increased, and people people now had enough money, and with that money, they the serfs they purchased their freedom. This is one of the causes for the decline of feudalism. Another another cause is that then technology and productivity. Technology and productivity means new technology were invented, iron was used to, and when the cultivation was made in a planned way, in a scientific way, then production increased. When production increased, the condition of the peasants also increased, and and when their condition increased, they could save some money for their personal freedom. This was another factor for the decline of feudalism. Still, another fact is the growth of a population. During this period, the population grew by leaps and bounds, and when population grew, the 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 prevailing form of means of subsistence were not enough to feed so much people, and that is why people did not see any merit in the feudal system. And another cause was that urbanization took place. Trade and commerce increased, the economic condition of the people increased. Then, when there was a trade and commerce, urbanization is a must. What is urbanization? Now, urbanization means the establishment of or coming up of so many towns and cities, and there was the exodus of people from rural areas to the town areas. So urbanization took place. That means people were more interested in urban areas rather than the the countryside or rather than in state areas. And another important cause was Black Death. But one Black Death means a type of a plague broke out in Europe that took almost a heavy toll. That is, one third of the population perished in that Black Death. So this led to shortage of labor. When labor shortage was held and labor could not be provided to work in the state, and gradually the state lost its charm and feudalism declined. Still, another very important cause for decline of feudalism is that the invention of gunpowder. The gunpowder was invented during this time, and by using the gunpowder, the castles could be exploded. So castle was no more a safe haven for the common people because it could be broken by using the gunpowder which was invented during this period. Earlier, what happened? Whenever the invaders came, the people used to seek the protection in the castle because castle is the only strong building in an estate, and the rest of the houses were mud, mud huts or small huts which could not give him protection against the barbarian attacks. So the castle was the only strong building which could provide shelter to the so and the feudalism had outlived its necessity. Outlived its means for a certain period its necessity was felt, but not beyond that. So when its necessity was when it outlived its necessity, it gradually declined. So many causes declined and spread up for education also, spread up for trade and commerce, spread up for growth of population, growth of organization. So all these factors, the modern factors, uh, led to the decline of feudalism, and gradually the power of the kings also increased, and no more the feudal lords were required to provide the military help. The business, when trade and commerce increased, the businessmen supplied money to the kings to develop their own army. So all these factors together helped the king uh, to make his own army or to prepare his own army, as a result of which the feudalism declined. So this was in nutshell a very short, in a very short period. I have to complete it because of some important assignments. Therefore, I think you have a clear idea of feudalism. It's not so important. Some theories are there which needs a little bit care. Otherwise, all the provisions and the functions of different people in society was is very easy. So hope you don't have any doubts. And if you have got any doubt, then you are free to ask me, but not right now at a later period. And since your exam is coming, approaching very fast, so we have no option but to engage in such a way. So thank you all for giving me a question. Listen, next class, if you look, then we will take up another issue, another topic, another class, and there we will dilate upon the contents that were much to your satisfaction. Thank you all once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your beautiful description of every chapter of this blog. And thank you, all the learners. My request to all the learners, please feel free to ask your doubts at the end of the session. Write down all your questions in our chat box so that after the end of the session, we can discuss all these questions of our learner. And yes, we are left with only three blocks, that is block 7, 8, and 9. And hopefully, we will complete it soon. And all the best for our learner for their final and term exam, which is going to start on 18th of April. So it's time to close this session. Thank you so much.